Om för den så. Ja, så är det stycken av hero hunters was. Honey. Ja, wat fijn dat ik weer film staat. Volgens mij van die ze geef je wat more. Ja, zeg het. Wat is niet net heel als je ieder dag. Dog ridden er veel weer trying to feel more als ik je boy it'll go out. Honey, that's different.
My name is Joshua P. Warren. I'm an author, filmmaker, and radio host in Western North Carolina, home of Christian evangelist Billy Graham. Most of my research has involved the paranormal and occult. You could say this story began when I was 16 years old. As a young writer, I worked in a bookstore, and I was in charge of special orders, those books that weren't always on the shelf. I remember the day when a small black paperback arrived, The Satanic Bible by Anton LaVey. The aura around it seemed so dark and palpable that no other employees would touch it. They were afraid of all the headlines. But I flipped through it, and here's what I saw.
On Saturday night, I would see men lusting after half-naked girls dancing at the carnival, and on Sunday morning, when I was playing the organ for the tent-show evangelists at the other end of the carnival lot, I would see these same men sitting in the pews with their wives and children, asking God to forgive them and purge them of carnal desires, and the next Saturday night they'd be back at the carnival or some other place of indulgence. I knew then that the Christian church thrives on hypocrisy, and that man's carnal nature will out.
I put the book down. It seemed simple enough, but I didn't want to be seen reading it. Years later, my professional talk show, Speaking of Strange, allowed me to converse with fascinating guests all over the world, and one night, for whatever reason, I remembered that spooky little black book. I sent an email to the Church of Satan, asking for a spokesperson. I was surprised to receive a reply, and especially taken aback to learn I could speak with the man in charge of the entire worldwide organization, the high priest of the Church of Satan, Peter H. Gilmore.
But otherwise, whatever floats your boat, as long as you don't interfere with us, we think go be happy. Believe in whatever you want to believe in. Believe in Jesus, believe in Santa Claus, believe in the Tooth Fairy. We don't care. We have a destruction ritual, and that's a sort of curse. If somebody has gone out of their way to do wrong to you, we think it's far healthier to go into a ritual chamber and stick pins in dolls than it is to run around every day carrying this hatred for somebody that just eats away at you. You release it, it's gone, you don't worry about that person anymore, and you enjoy your life. And the third ritual is a lust ritual, which is, of course, one that you do in private. And essentially, that's a way of releasing your sexual desires. If you have a regular lover or lovers, and you're sexually frustrated, you envision the lover or lovers that you like, and you bring yourself to a sexual climax, and then you're not pent up anymore. And then, if we really feel that there's nothing wrong with masturbation. So
the response was overwhelming. Web hits went through the roof, and I was contacted by a surge of people for many months with both very good and very bad things to say to me. All the bad stuff said that I had given a mouthpiece to the biggest, most evil Satanist of them all, the Black Pope. The good stuff? That I had exposed some truth. The Church of Satan was founded on April 30th, 1966 in California by Anton LaVey. The popular legend is that LaVey's trademark shaved head symbolized his transformation, having been struck by an epiphany, realizing he would lead a new era in thought, and proclaiming himself the head of his new organization. In fact, it was done on a light-hearted dare from his wife. LaVey was a psychic investigator, a talented showman with a carny background, and an articulate speaker. Some viewed his new church as a publicity stunt, but the logical concepts in his digestible, easy-to-read book, The Satanic Bible, would resonate with many, solidifying him as a person with a stable philosophy, an attractive one, that allowed people to enjoy themselves without hurting others and without feeling guilt or being frightened of an afterlife. It celebrated humans as animals. And when LaVey died in 1997, at the age of 67, the typical mortal squabbles ensued. It seemed everyone wanted a piece of his estate. Eventually, his possessions like a Rasputin chair, bed of nails, horned cap, and Byzantine phallus were distributed among his heirs, and his famous lair, the Black House at 6114 California Street in San Francisco, was demolished in 2001. Many wondered whether or not the church might surely crumble as well. Peter H. Gilmore was a friend of LaVey's, and he became LaVey's successor in 2001. His wife, Peggy Nadramia, became the high priestess. Since the radio show had stimulated such interest, I wanted to have him back sometime, so we continued corresponding. Having recently completed a documentary on talk radio called Talking Tall, I was on the lookout for another interesting subject. It seemed the media had never portrayed the church accurately.
Right, we're not devil worshippers, we're Satanists.
And therefore the media had been given limited access. But Gilmore thought I'd given him a fair shake on the air, and eventually, after building up a level of trust, the church agreed to give me unprecedented access to their inner workings. I had final control over all editorial aspects, and no one with the church would be paid for his or her participation. As a person who is more or less agnostic, I would go in with an open mind to see for myself what the Church of Satan is all about. Though I would meet up with the high priest Gilmore in Hell's Kitchen, New York, I asked him where I could find the church's best facilities. They were hidden in another country. I would have to go there and meet with strange people who would take me off to a secret location, the new Black House of the North. And there, I would see things that no outsider had ever seen before. In fact, they were planning an important ritual. There were no contracts or signed papers. I was told I would be the first to document what you will see in this film. And I made the arrangements to travel to a distant land based solely upon the word of the world's top Satanist. And then I began to wonder if this was a good idea. What if I learned that all the urban myths were true? Babies were being sacrificed. Sexual depravity ran rampant. After all, they were famous for their nude female altars. Well, that part didn't sound too bad, actually. But what if the devil really appeared? Would he go on camera? I decided to find out for myself.
Now, Satanists think there is no Satan. But, what the hell? Just in case, here we have the beautiful naked altar, we have the skull, we have the candles. What do you say we try to conjure up Satan? Why not? Satan! Please come henceforth! You are commanded!
Later, you'll see what happened. But now, back to the story. Many people tried to dissuade me from doing the project, but nonetheless, I teamed up with C. Eric Scott, my friend and co-producer director of Talking Tall. He is also a Christian and was definitely unsure about the project at first. But he has balls of steel. And so he agreed to help me capture this vision of hell. It seemed like a good idea to get some practical advice, though. I decided to speak with my friend, world-renowned author and journalist Nick Redfern. He's an Englishman who has traveled the world investigating weird and often controversial things.
The only way to really get the answers from a personal perspective is to go out there and speak to the people and say, hey, what are you all about? Tell us what you're about. Tell me what you're about. And I think there's no real alternative or excuse for not doing that, for going out there and getting the answers personally. And, you know, I think that is the way to do it. You know, you can read countless books or, you know, watch countless TV programs, etc., etc. But the way to do it is to go out there, spend time with the people, form your own opinions and conclusions, and then tell people what you found out. And I think that's the honest way to do it.
If I end up tied upside down to a crucifix with my throat slit, you will investigate exactly what happened and tell the public the truth, right?
I shall do my best.
In order to prepare for this investigation, I began to study the Satanic Bible and Gilmore's new book, The Satanic Scriptures. The 7 Satanic Rules of the Earth. Ask yourself, do you agree with each one? Do not give opinions or advice unless you are asked. Do not tell your troubles to others unless you are sure they want to hear them. When in another's lair, show him respect, or else do not go there. If a guest in your lair annoys you, treat him cruelly and without mercy. Do not make sexual advances unless you are given the mating signal. Do not take that which does not belong to you unless it is a burden to the other person and he cries out to be relieved. Acknowledge the power of magic if you have employed it successfully to obtain your desires. If you deny the power of magic after having called upon it with success, you will lose all you have obtained. Do not complain about anything to which you need not subject yourself. Do not harm little children. Do not kill non-human animals unless you are attacked or for your food. When walking in open territory, bother no one. If someone bothers you, ask him to stop. If he does not stop, destroy him. There are also 9 satanic sins: stupidity, pretentiousness, solipsism, self-deceit, herd conformity, lack of perspective, forgetfulness of past orthodoxies, counterproductive pride, and lack of aesthetics. As I prepared for my journey, Halloween rolled around. I found it ironic that people who ordinarily consider the devil bad in the United States often take one night of the year to dress up like the devil or a demon. Why? One guy even dressed up as a demon priest.
You can kill somebody or rape them, and all you have to do is say, I'm sorry, and I believe in the Lord, and everything's just fine. And I love that about Christianity. Isn't it great? It's so convenient, especially for a politician.
I think a little bit of Satan lives in all of us. Yes, sir!
Here we are at the largest and craziest Halloween bash in the entire region. This is an example of what people in the United States of America usually do when they celebrate the nether realm, the ghoulish veil that thins between this world and the next. Some of them even dress up like Satan himself. But how do they feel about Satan?
Now, where do you feel that the actual Lord of Darkness lives? Do you think there's a being out there who controls and sways all mindsets and makes people do terrible things? No? And what's that being's name?
He lives in the White House. You know? I'm just kidding. He lives in San Fernando.
How do you feel about the Church of Satan?
I'd say a bunch of posers, pretty much. They don't even really believe in me. It's kind of disappointing. Just a bunch of atheists running around screwing each other. It's, do what thou wilt. Hey, that's fantastic. It looks great on a bumper sticker. I don't know about for an ethos, but to each his own.
Ladies and gentlemen, the devil.
There is no Satan, and there is no God. Right here.
Soon, Christmas time was on the horizon. While everyone else was decking the halls and preparing to celebrate the birth of Jesus, I was preparing to meet the world's foremost Satanists. It was surreal as I made my way from airport to airport, eventually leaving the U.S. behind for a cold, mysterious land. When Eric and I finally arrived at our destination airport, we were greeted by a man with a furry hat, long coat. This was Magister Robert Lang, a fourth-degree Satanist. You see, the church says anyone can call him or herself a Satanist if that person agrees with their philosophy. But to become a registered member of the church, you must sign a statement agreeing with their philosophy. Though it's strongly suggested you don't even have to read the Satanic Bible. You currently pay a one-time $200 lifetime membership fee, no tithing suggested, and you will receive a little red card declaring your membership in the Infernal Empire. To become an active member of the church, you must fill out a lengthy application asking for information like If you had 3 wishes, what would they be? Or describe your ideal of a physically attractive sex partner. Or tell one of your favorite jokes. If you are accepted, you become a bona fide first-degree Satanist. And if you do well, leading a productive, successful life in society as the church monitors you, you may just advance through these ranks. 2nd degree, warlock or witch. 3rd degree, priest or priestess. 4th degree, magister or magistra. And finally, the degree that can only be attained by the leaders of the church. 5th degree, magus or mega. There is also a governing body of primarily secret members called the Council of 9. Pretty neat, huh? Altogether, they consider their system a meritocracy where ranks are handed out based on individual achievement. Since working on this film, numerous people have emailed me to say the church is nothing but a money scheme. Well, keep in mind, no one has to pay anything. It's all voluntary. Of course, one could say that all religions are money schemes, and some Christian evangelists live in big houses and drive fancy cars. But it seems to me it's unfair to focus solely on money. Money is just a realistic part of life. We need it to live. But now you know how it works in the Church of Satan. And so, as a 4th-degree magister, Robert Lang, the man in the furry hat, was as high as you can get on the totem pole other than leading the entire worldwide organization. And he was driving us deeper and deeper and deeper into nowhere as the sun set. Here, Eric and I were in another country with a man we'd never met before, driving us into a frozen winter wonderland to a secret location. It quickly became clear, if these Satanists had bad intentions, we were fucked. I can't show you the outside of the Black House of the North for security purposes, but when I arrived, the first thing I noticed was a huge, black, demonic Great Dane coming to eat me. Well, maybe she wasn't really that scary. Actually, she was pretty sweet, and it's a good thing. Her name was Freya. She keeps things safe around there. And then an aroma filled my nostrils. Was it rotting flesh, boiling blood, brimstone? Actually, it was the delicious aroma of chicken coming from the kitchen. That's where we found Magus Diana de Magus, Robert's wife, not wearing a sinister robe, but an apron.
This is a black bean and corn salad for the Southerners. They'd appreciate this.
You bet.
And we have tequila chicken in the oven. I hope it doesn't clash with your bourbon.
So, before you became a Satanist, tell me about some of your religious affiliations, if you had any.
Well, I was baptized United. And United Church of Canada. And
well, what exactly is that?
I don't really know. I guess it's just a more liberal version of Christianity, I suppose.
It's similar to Presbyterian.
Okay, similar to Presbyterian.
They're almost identical.
Alright. Anyways, I soon became disenchanted with that because I used to ask too many questions of the parishioner there. And one of the main things was they put out this propaganda leaflet, showed a big flying saucer on it, and it said something like, if there were, God would have said so. Oh, and they basically were trying to tell me that there couldn't possibly be life on other planets, or it would have been in the Bible. And I said, well, I think it would be absurd that with all these billions and billions, because Carl Sagan was big at the time, that to think that there wouldn't be anything else out there aside from human beings is absurd.
Yeah.
So, right there, I broke away from Christianity. I never went back to to church again with my parents. And then there was the attempts by my relatives, who were all Salvation Army on my father's side, to get me into the Christian thing. So they brought me to these huge, long, boring, Christian rituals. And you'd sit there for maybe 2 hours in the morning, and then you'd go downstairs, where everybody would sit around the table, and then they'd go, "So, Robert, what Bible lines do you know today?" And I said, "I don't know any of them." And then, of course, the rest of the room would erupt into laughter, saying, "You don't know any Bible lines?" That the typical trying to brainwash you through peer pressure into accepting them.
Sure.
And try to make you feel bad in order to learn something that you totally disagree with. So.
And now both of you are 4th degree Satanists, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you are a magister and you are a magistra, right?
That's right.
So how long had you known Diana before this unveiling, shall we say, occurred, that you were a Satanist?
I guess it was on and off for about 3 years we were dating, right, Diana?
Wow, that long before she knew you were a Satanist?
Yeah, about that. Off and on. We were dating off and on for 2-3 years.
Oh no, Robert.
Like
a year, maybe max.
Really?
Oh yeah, before I knew.
Anyways, yeah, so.
Quite a while.
Yeah.
Now, did you keep that secret intentionally, or did you just not bring it up, or, I mean, how did you...
No, I just thought it would be more of a pain in the ass to bother explaining at the time, and just waited till the right time came. Well, she was like the only girl I've ever met that was like into Lovecraft,
Yeah.
So.
That had a bigger Lovecraft collection.
Yeah, she had a bigger Lovecraft collection than I did.
How did the two of you share this experience of evolving through the church?
We just went about and did our thing, and we evolved at the same level each time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I caught up pretty quick with my literature and things like that.
And when did you tell your family that you were a Satanist?
That was a while after.
Yeah.
Quite a while after.
Mm-hmm. Not the best scene.
No, not good. Not a good scene, actually. Now it's just unspoken of.
Really?
Yeah, that's my family.
Yeah.
My family, if there's anything they don't like and it comes out, then they just never talk about it again.
So they just ignore the fact that you're a Satanist now? Because you still...
That's right.
Yeah.
They
maybe
totally ignore it, and of course we respect them that we don't thrust anything like that in their face.
Sure.
I've never bothered telling my parents anything about it, although all the Sally Ann side of the family knows about it now. One of them did an outreach to me. And,
I'm sure that worked.
Is everything okay?
Actually, what they did was kind of mean. They tried to use his grandmother to
yes
bring
at
him
the funeral.
closer to
at the
them
funeral
while she was sick and still alive and stuff. So that was not.
Yes, and then at the funeral, the whole sermon was about having the key to heaven, and then he turns over and he looks at me. Do you have the key?
But is it safe to say they think you two are going to hell? I mean, they really believe there is a place called hell, and you're going there.
I don't know about my family.
Probably
like I
not
said,
your.
They weren't
probably
very
not your
religious,
family.
so probably not.
No, they're
really?
they're more religious out of convenience, because everyone else.
Oh, they like the social aspect.
And neither of you think there is a hell, right?
No.
I
Hell
highly doubt it.
It's Hell's Kitchen.
Do you fear your neighbors?
Fear, no.
They're going to burn down the
No.
black house.
Of course, you'd worry about
it's a
you'd fear their
possibility,
stupidity, or their ignorance, So you would never want to hi, it's like throw rocks at me. That is the reason we have the S word, to keep people like that out of our organization, who always feel the need to have a good guy badge pinned right on their lapels. I'm not afraid to wear the black hat from time to time. I mean, we don't even believe in the idea of sacrifice. It's a total Christian idea to sacrifice. Christ on the cross sacrificing for his people. I died for you.
Next, we went to our rooms. Mine was a woodland theme full of stuffed birds. Eric's was more pattern-based. And then Robert took us on a tour of the Black House.
So this is the library, of course. And of course there's the beautiful sculpture that Brian Moore made of the first edition Dracula. And as you can see, I like Egyptian atmosphere. This is a sculpture I did of Vlad Tepes the Impaler, the satanic saint of justice.
Wow, you did that sculpture?
I did that sculpture.
Wow,
yeah.
That is impressive.
Yeah, and some of our more favorite books in here. Probably the largest Rasputin library you'll ever see. Bunch of books on Vlad the Impaler here, of course. And the Lovecraft collection. Ching, ching, ching. And a lot of rare little novels.
So do you want to be buried or cremated when you die?
I'd say cremated.
Really? Why is that?
That way I could be kept in a little jar on some nice warm shelf in someone's house instead of...
May I have some of that later?
That's
this is great.
A Marcus Meyer sculpture that was given as a gift. Okay, so we're going to go down into the gallery here. We got to get a shot of this. This is a cover of another magazine called Sinister. He wanted something really blasphemous. He was from the South, so he wanted something like a nun and skull.
That's pretty blasphemous.
and a horned dick. Like a
complete with sperm.
Yeah.
Semen like oozing out onto the nun.
All over. Yeah,
wow.
That's where we do our debaucheries in it.
Well,
almost every room had a theme.
Now tell me about the Marilyn Monroe bathroom and Jane Mansfield.
Oh yeah.
Have you been in here yet?
Well, I love blondes.
Go ahead and check
and
that out.
I love old style movie stars.
Was this your idea?
Did you want to describe this room?
I wondered which of you designed it. Or was it a mutual thing you both
It's a mutual thing. I wanted a bathroom that was very feminine and filled with blondes.
It's the workshop of the satanic master.
So this is some banners, and everyone's going to go, oh, they're Nazis. Well, no, it's actually not a swastika. It's called a wolf's cross, and that symbolizes like energy from within. These are like almost like vectors radiating out, so it's talking about change from within and projecting that out towards greater aspirations. Those color combinations are classic in military.
Well, that's why they were used by the Nazis,
because
it was eye-catching, because it was strong, because people would react to it.
So we don't stop using something. We don't stop using something that works just because the Nazis used that color scheme. No, otherwise, why don't I just stop wearing Hugo Boss, who designed the Nazi SS uniforms, or stop listening to Jewish music because Hitler secretly liked it?
Or Wagner.
Or Wagner.
And Robert is an amazing artist in many media who has devoted his skills to making the Black House a special place. After seeing so many rooms, I then wondered which one would be used as the ritual chamber, the most sacred of all. When I asked Robert, he gave us the ultimate surprise.
And we've heard that the Church of Satan believes that all churches should be taxed. Well, we really think that people should not have religion subsidized by the state. And we think that people should keep their religion to themselves in their own home and keep it out of other people's business. So we choose to celebrate our religions in our own houses, which is essentially what the Church of Satan, when people ask, oh, where's the Church of Satan? Well, it's not in one particular place. It's a whole bunch of places, this being one of them. So.
Just like scenes from Scooby-Doo, he really did have a secret passageway leading to this fantastic hidden chamber.
I mean, he's here.
Yeah.
He's here.
And this is an original Coop poster. 61 of 666. These came in gold to gold writing up here. An original Anton LaVey certificate given to a friend of ours who comes up here from time to time. Most of our satanic library in various versions.
So what do you consider to be the most treasured item in this room?
I guess sentimentally. Mm-hmm. Well, okay, well let me show you some of the items in the room first of all. This is dust collected from the floor where Rasputin was assassinated, where he was poisoned, the actual room.
No kidding.
In Russia. This is a piece of the wall from the courtyard where Rasputin was shot. This is a funeral I performed for my friend who died, a satanic funeral. That clown there she was an original Church of Satan member, and that clown was hanging in her room when she died. This is the first Church of Satan Magister satanic action figure.
There he is.
Yeah. He's pretty proud of that.
Sinister minister.
Yeah, he's pretty proud of that.
I bet.
You like a satanic ritual will have an altar. I like to have two. More naked women. Yeah. So they can go. Because really, there's not enough room up there for a naked woman.
Well, we can squeeze a couple in.
Go fine.
Yeah. And when we thought we'd seen it all, he took us even deeper into another secret passageway. Through, of course, a coffin. This was cool. I was amazed by the amount of time, effort, and energy that had been put into his extraordinary endeavor. He was a serious Satanist. After our complete tour,
Robert loves hot sauce.
And a fantastic dinner, including plenty of hot sauce, with him and Diana, who was a wonderful chef, by the way, Magister Robert Lang sat in his study to answer my questions.
Why am I Satanist? Because I feel that is the philosophy which best reflects who I am. Reading the Satanic Bible by Anton LaVey It was more or less looking at a reflection of myself in the mirror.
People always ask me, why do they call themselves Satanists if they don't believe there is a Satan? So first, let me ask you point blank, do you believe there is a Satan as a sentient, independent being?
No, absolutely not. No, Satan is purely a symbol. I'd say that Satan is representative of man's carnal nature. It is that which best describes who we are as human beings. It is the character which is closest to what man is, which is an animal. He's a symbol of defiance and rebellion, iconoclasm, the human spirit, and rebellion, the original rebel.
So you view humans as being no different than any other creatures?
No, we are all animals.
Now, if you curse someone, do you think that there is a karmic repercussion that whatever you project out will come back to you?
No, absolutely not. Because as far as I'm concerned, the reason why I'm cursing them is because I'm dealing out justice because they have wronged me. Usually when I do a ritual, I usually end up with what I want. When I was a child, I guess I saw what would be considered perhaps a ghost. From a child's perspective, it's hard to say if it was my imagination running away with me or not, but we were playing upstairs in my cousin's attic, and he relayed to me that the house was supposedly haunted, and we were just playing there with our toys, and all of a sudden we turned around and I got this real chill as I saw this white apparition type, what looked to me like a woman holding out her hands, coming towards us like this.
How do you feel about the role of children in Satanism, becoming Satanists?
I think that children shouldn't be involved in any organized religion until they become 18 years old and are old enough to make a well thought out decision about what they want to be.
Do you find that even though you have no control over other people, including young people, that the idea of an organization like the Church of Satan nonetheless inspires some people to commit evil acts?
Yeah, well, those things will happen no matter what organization you have. I mean, how many, Bibles have been found in, murders scenes, and I'd say it's predominantly less so with satanic Bibles that may have been found in someone's home. I'm sure that's provable.
Do you feel that Christianity is just overall bad?
Predominantly, it's like a rabies, in the fact that they separate themselves from nature by denying that they are of the animal kingdom. And when you deny what you actually are, I think that makes you a little bit less stable of a person. We don't necessarily perceive coffins and skulls as being ghoulish. We see skulls as a symbol of man's mortality. I find our imagery a heck of a lot more fun.
Some people told me when they knew I was coming up here to do this, they said, I think you're probably going to find that most of these Satanists are just a bunch of grown-up Dungeons and Dragons geeks.
Mm-hmm. If we go down in the ritual chamber and we dress up from time to time and we act out a fantasy down there and we get out whatever angst is within us through doing so, then there's nothing wrong with that either. If consenting adults want to get together and do whatever they want, that's fine with us. And as far as nudity and nude altars in satanic rituals is concerned, that's there for a specific purpose. Definitely she's nude because males are more visually stimulated on that scale as well. So it adds to the charge in the room. Plus, she's also being the attention of the room, and therefore she is the focus. So you're focusing on her plus projecting outwards. She's taking the energy in the room, theoretically, and projecting that outwards.
Would you accept a barcode if your government required it on your forehead or your wrist or something?
Depends what it is in it for me and what it looks like. I mean, is it aesthetically pleasing or is it just a stupid barcode? You know.
So you're open to the possibility then?
I don't necessarily like the idea of being branded in any way. No, that's why I don't have any tattoos.
Now there are more people, at least in North America, who give the appearance that they believe there may be a hell and a heaven.
Mm-hmm.
What are the chances in your mind that you are wrong and all those people are right, and that you are going to end up facing your final moments and realize the terrible mistake?
Well, let's just say I'd rather jump into hell than be with most of them.
As you can see, members of the Church of Satan do not believe there is a Satan or a God, demons or angels. They are basically atheists who use Satan as a symbol, meaning simply adversary. To them, it seems saying, "Hail Satan," might literally be on par with "Hail the Easter Bunny." But then again, symbols do have psychological power, like flags, for example. Thus, despite literal reality, we can all understand the true power of symbolism. I went outside in the middle of the night to check out the grounds.
Underneath a gleaming full moon, here we are so far north. I'm looking for Santa Claus around here. It is 8 fucking degrees. There is a foot of snow on the ground. No wonder some of these people want to be Satanists. They're hoping they can go to hell just to warm up a little bit.
At the end of a long night, Eric and I retired to our rooms.
It's about 5:20 in the morning. Eric and I have been up about 24 hours now. We're tired as hell, but we've got to be up anyway in just a few hours, when all the Satanists are going to come here for the ritual.
When I turned off the light and laid down, it was completely black and silent as a cave. I slept like a baby. The next day, I awoke to sounds of laughter and clamoring. After a quick refresher, I went upstairs to see who had arrived. The first person to give me a hearty handshake was Colonel Akula, a man with a strong, charismatic aura.
I've always held Batman to be one of my heroes. A paragon. He's the apex of human perfection. That synthesis of body and mind, the physical and the mental, because they cannot exist without each other.
I think Colonel Akula may be the real Batman. He climbs mountains, and he knows how to kick ass.
I could kick someone's ass. Well, not a lot of people can do that. Just being able to kick someone's ass who's coming at you with a hammer, I mean, that's something you can be proud of. I've self-authored 2 books. They're part of a series called Fang and Claw. And the first one is called Fang and Claw, a treatise on practical combat, and it deals with, it examines self-defense from a satanic point of view. This one is Fang and Claw, a treatise on practical combat. This one is Fang and Claw, Volume 2, better known as Fang and Claw, Striking Techniques.
You never kick anybody in the balls because, I mean, we've all been kicked in the balls.
Wait, let's hear that again.
You never kick anybody in the balls because, I mean, we've all been kicked in the balls.
See? Satanists aren't all that bad.
Attack the eyeballs. A 100-pound girl with Lee press-on nails can render a rapist immobile by just jamming her little pinkies right into the eyeballs and making applesauce.
I asked Akula more about his views on Satanism.
I was always the weird kid, and that's probably something you'll hear a lot from all of us. I was not abused, I was not mistreated, I wasn't running from anything. Somehow, somewhere along the line, I started getting into the occult, and stuff that was evil, and stuff that was hidden, and stuff that was not allowed or dangerous to read. And I wound up with a copy of the Satanic Bible, and it pretty much went from there. It wasn't earth-shattering or mind-blowing or anything. I just picked it up and read it and said, oh, huh, I guess I'm not the only one.
When I was going to university, I was going to a university in a very small Methodist farm town. It only had about 2,000 people. And I was known as a Satanist. It got out. I wasn't exactly advertising it, but it got out. So many's the night I'd be walking home from the library and I'd hear that low idling sound of a pickup truck coming by. And one night, a couple of yahoos walked out, and they looked like they just walked off the set of Deliverance. And I got the, "Where you going, boy?" So I had to defend myself. And I was able to, and that started me thinking, well, being a Satanist invites a lot of attacks. And most of the time, they're intellectual, if it can be called that. You have to defend your beliefs because people will just call you out on them all the time. But when logic and the force of your argument fails, some of them will take a punch, or will throw a punch at you.
How would you respond to the idea that the reason that you go so extreme with physical and mental perfection is because you have some weakness inside you're trying to compensate for?
That's a good question. My wife can't figure it out, you know. I mean, I come home aching and beat up, and do I like pain? That's it's not that. It's overcoming. I guess I could call it further distancing myself from the herd, because the bulk of society, the bulk of humanity, especially now, are so lazy. I mean, lethargy is just everywhere. People don't get off the couch. The only thing they can reach for is the fucking remote. They're just, something comes out of Oprah's mouth and they'll bray it back like the fucking sheep that they are. So, and they eat crap. They eat bad food. They don't take care of themselves. They're dirty. They don't respect themselves. They don't like themselves. I love myself.
How do you break the news, "I'm a Satanist," and how do they react to that?
Well, it's interesting. It's on a person-by-person basis, because it can get you a slap in the face. It can make you single, but it can also get you laid. I mean, every girl likes the bad boy, but it really depends, because I don't wear it on my sleeve. I mean, obviously, when I go into work, it's not like I'm going to be wearing this on my finger. I see it as a great shit filter, honestly. Because it's a great way of eliminating the crap and the losers from your life.
How do you feel about the potential legalization of drugs and drug usage?
Well, I find drug use to be repugnant because it's, especially the marijuana party and people who want to legalize pot. It's, sure, I mean, it's not as harmful for you as alcohol or tobacco, and these things are perfectly legal, but it's a plant. To have your entire life revolve around a plant is stupid. But as far as drug use goes, well, we can make a hell of a lot of money off it. I mean, sure, you know, but for the legalization of drugs, I have no problem with that.
How would you respond to the idea that you're just playing the role of Mr. Nice Guy, and in reality, you know, when the cameras aren't around, you are doing things that are more sinister?
If we were that evil and that sinister, well, somebody would have caught us by now. I mean, it's the one thing, well, Satanism contains no ambiguity, and it's all about being yourself. What you see is what you get, because we are not ashamed of who we are. We don't have anything to hide. I'd like to turn that question back around, because I think I read in the paper somewhere that a couple of young boys were molested by Christian priests. You know, didn't you know? I'd like to ask that question to Ted Haggard. You know, I'd like to sit down with him. Well, maybe he can't sit down right now. I've never understood how I can get moral advice, or how I can be told that what I believe in is sinful and wrong from an organization that has harbored and defended pedophiles for generations. You got to come at with me. You got to come at me with a lot more than that before I ever take what you have to say seriously.
Eric is a Satanist who kicks ass on the drums, and if he ever meets him, he has a few words for God.
I don't do anything wrong. I don't break the law. I don't impose my views on other people. I don't do anything. I don't see why I would deserve to roast in hell. So if that's the system and if that's the way it works, he can go fuck himself if he exists, basically. That's my view of God and the afterlife.
Were you raised up with a particular religious background that was instilled by your parents?
Not really, not in any overly fundamentalist way. We're basically lapsed Catholics, if you want to call it that.
Well, who gives a shit? You know, who is this guy? What, he wrote the Satanic Bible, you know. Why should you care what this guy said? What makes him so special?
You know, it's not about him so much. It's about what he started. The religion is not about Anton LaVey. This is not a cult of personality. He was a man, codified the religion, and now the religion has moved beyond. You know, he set it forth.
Tell me about an experience where someone has reacted negatively or abrasively toward the fact that you are a Satanist.
There was a time when when I was in the band and I was on tour. I believe it was somewhere in the South. I think it was Florida. And it was one of the other bands we were playing with that night or that week, whatever it was. And I was wearing a medallion sort of like this one. And someone had asked about it, I think, asked about the medallion. I just mentioned casually that I was a Satanist. And a couple of the guys, you know, took it as a joke or whatever. But one of them, you know, was visibly shaken or frightened by me and actually backed away from me. And I think he left the room. So some people definitely do have a problem with it. I don't personally believe in an actual Satan. There is some of that wording is used in the ritual, but it's meant to be stimulating and symbolic rather than literal.
If Satan does not represent sacrificing and all this stuff, and God and Christians supposedly don't, then who does? Who's left? Who do we blame this on?
You mean who do we blame sacrificing on?
Yeah, who are they all worshiping when they're out there saying, "Oh, you know, I'm worshiping Satan and I'm gonna"?
Well, they obviously take the Christian mythology and take the side of Satan in that mythology, whereas real Satan is to take that and throw it all out. We don't use that at all. That whole God versus Satan, see that, you know, that they're reading in their Bible, we completely reject that. That has nothing to do with Satanism. Well, there's certainly things we keep to ourselves. We don't normally, you know, do rituals in front of people, and, you know, this is where, you know, we're going to do one for this film.
So when it comes to the idea of, as the book says, destroying someone, how do you feel about that? What does that mean, destroy someone?
Well, it depends on the situation. The obvious one is if you're being attacked. Well, I mean, if you feel like your life is threatened, then you have right to defend your life. But it depends on the situation. If someone is, in the context of somebody is disturbing your life, you know, find a way to either destroy them symbolically so that you don't worry about it anymore, or, you know, take yourself out of it so you don't have to deal with it.
What do you hope to happen over the next 10 years or hope will happen?
I hope that I'd like to see, certainly you've heard of pentagonal revisionism and the 5-point plan of Anton LaVey's. So
actually, I'm not sure that I have. What is that?
Well, that's there's what Satanists would like to see come forth. There's certain aspects of that I'd like to see. Definitely, stratification is one important one where we start to realize and we can put forth the idea that people are not equal. Right now, it's incredibly politically incorrect to even suggest anything like that. We'll put, a bum on the street on the same level as, a CEO of a company or a great musical creator, symphony, orchestra, composer, or whatever. I mean, there are certain levels of people. People are not all the same. People will achieve different levels of success in their life, and I'd like to, see a time where we would stop propping up the weak and giving them a free ride.
Next, I went outside to play in the snow with Robert, Diana, and Freya.
How do you difference between the pentacle and the pentagram?
Well, I don't see a pentacle as being it's not an upright thing. We see the pentagram pointed down, related to Pythagoras, which is the 5-point ratio, which is inherent in all living things.
And you use it primarily because it represents perfection and unity.
Yeah, of nature.
As the sun began to set, it was time for the ritual. It was to be the Rite of Ragnarok.
Rite of Ragnarok, simply because the Ragnarok idea has to do with rebirth and new beginnings. Mm-hmm. So in Ragnarok, the old gods are destroyed and a new order begins. Mm-hmm. And you can take that into going as personal as, you might want to stop doing one thing and start doing another, Sure. Beginning a new project and finishing off a chapter in your life or whatever.
We would be the first people to ever document this ritual, and a serious tone set on the group.
For all of you who are classic Satan fans, this is a real pitchfork.
Once inside the ritual chamber, with people in cloaks with daggers and swords, the door would be locked. Our imaginations ran wild. What would happen inside? Finally, we were about to see. The head of the Church of Satan, Peter H. Gilmore, lives in Hell's Kitchen, New York. Eric and I traveled to Manhattan to speak with him in person.
Part of some of the world's top Satanists.
While we were shooting, a man on a street corner had his own opinions about Satan and the president.
This sticker implies the only way the administration can get worse is if Cheney takes Bush's place and Satan takes Cheney's place. And obviously the next campaign would be Satan moving up, and whoever's worse than Satan, say Kathy Lee Gifford.
Before meeting the Satanists, I decided to visit an old friend in New York, Mr. Creepo. You might also know him as Mr. UFO or Tim Beckley. He's a world traveler, writer, filmmaker, and publisher who has done it all and seen it all. Tim has been traveling in weird circles his whole life. I wanted his take on this movie.
In addition to being a writer on UFOs and the paranormal, I am also a B-movie maker. Mr. Creepo is my name in the horror films. You can catch some of my videos like Sandy Hook Lingerie Party Massacre and Barely Legal Lesbian of Vampires, The Curse of Ed Wood, and certainly Bloodsucking Vampire Freaks. That's one thing I always have appreciated about the satanic belief system, is that most people, of course, think of Satanists as those who torture animals and sacrifice babies and do all these dastardly deeds, when that is not really going on, certainly not in the official quarters. Again, anybody who can be a member of a group and anything that they do is often associated with that organization. I have met a number of members of Anton LaVey's church, and I've watched his videos, and I see absolutely nothing wrong with his practices and beliefs, and some of them I would agree with, and some of them I wouldn't.
What do you feel is the difference between a cult and a religion?
Thousands of members, and years of longevity, and general acceptance.
Do you feel that it's a bit silly for these Satanists who don't believe in anything spiritual to have priests and priestesses and warlocks and have rituals and put on costumes and all this business?
I don't think it's any worse than the Scientologists or the Mormons or the Catholic Church. I wouldn't see what the difference really was.
At long last, it was time to meet the man in charge. We went to the reputedly haunted Landmark Tavern, and the upstairs was reserved just for us. Inside, we found a charming entourage of satanic priests and a witch. They were all very friendly. Here is Satanic Reverend David Harris. He produces the internet radio talk show Satanism Today.
How did your parents react when they found out that you were joining the Church of Satan?
My parents do not know.
They still don't know?
They still do not know.
Really?
Yes.
So you were keeping it secret?
That is correct, yes.
And why is that?
Well, I grew up in a very, very staunch Catholic household. My mother is a very devout Catholic, and truth be told, I love my mother. And this aspect of my life would break her heart.
And you've given us your real name, and you're not afraid your mom's going to hear about this?
No, not at all. Fortunately for me, she's technologically and in many other ways, in terms of the media, ignorant to things such as the Church of Satan. She's probably not even aware of its existence. If I recall correctly, I introduced her to Peter at my wedding, and she had no idea who he was.
No kidding?
Yes.
So your mother met the head of the Church of Satan and had no idea that she was meeting you?
Correct.
That's great. Every mother's worst nightmare, huh?
Poor dream.
Yeah. Just because Peter H. Gilmore says you're a priest, suddenly you're a priest, whoop-de-doo. I mean, why should you care what Peter H. Gilmore thinks?
I've known Peter Gilmore for about 7 years now. He's by far one of the most intelligent, well-spoken, witty, friendly, literally one of the greatest people I've ever had the pleasure of knowing and calling my friend. So to have been recognized by him and by people he respects with this honor means a great deal to me, personally. I could give a damn what anybody else thinks. It means something to me. And that's what Satanism is. How best to live your life as an individual.
What's your occupation?
I'm a network security consultant for a major Fortune 500 company.
Really?
Yes.
Now, they probably don't know you're a Satanist, right?
My coworkers and my supervisors.
They know?
Yeah.
And they're intelligent enough to realize it's not a problem.
Yeah, of course. In fact, I'm probably revered within my department as one of the most dependable, respected, and hardest working people that's there.
So they don't have any bias against you?
No, none at all. And I'm certainly not the only Satanist working for said company.
Oh, really? How many Satanists are there?
Well, there's a few. I'm not going to go any further than that.
Yeah. Do you think that there are so many Satanists in various occupations that Christians don't know about that it would probably make them freak out if they knew?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There are Satanists that come from every walk of life and every possible profession you could imagine.
Yeah.
Law enforcement, legal field, fine arts, computer technology, what have you. You name it. I can almost guarantee you that there is a Satanist working in that profession.
Would the world be a better place if everyone were a Satanist?
No, I don't think so at all. One of the concepts that Anton LaVey talks about is the concept of stratification, of people properly seeking their own level. It's not within the nature of any animal species, human or otherwise, to be equal. All is one. It's just not natural. So for everyone to be a Satanist would sort of negate that, and again, it wouldn't be natural.
So you don't think everyone should be a Satanist?
No, hardly.
What? Oh, then how many people should be a Satanist? What ratio are you comfortable with?
I don't think that's something that can be really quantified.
Why not?
Because Satanists are born and not made. No one...
Well, I know that, but I mean, so if you're saying that you don't think everybody should feel the same way you do?
No, I don't. I think...
See, that's weird to me, and the reason it's weird to me is because it seems to me if everybody had your philosophy and they minded their own business, that seems like a great ideal to me. So why don't you want everybody to just mind their own business and be free?
It's not within everybody's nature to mind their own business. There's always going to be somebody out there.
No, that's true, but don't you maybe think that would be cool if everybody did mind their own business?
It's not practical.
But, it'd be nice if they... So you don't want to think of a world where everybody is a Satanist?
No. In fact, that's probably a world I don't want to live in.
So you don't want to live in a world where everybody is a Satanist?
No, I don't.
Why not?
I suppose my biggest objection to the question is that I have a hard time wrapping my head around that sort of, because it's such a far-fetched idea. It's not something that I could even envision.
Why is it far-fetched?
Because people suck.
This is Satanic Reverend Christopher Mealy and his wife, Satanic Witch Stephanie Crabe. They are both published authors.
This book is called Sex Cats. And
love the title.
I have thousands of erotic images that I've collected over years, and this is just a collection of some of my favorite ones. And I've been consulted about this kind of material. I'm a historian of this material.
This is Motel Bazaar by me, Stephanie Crabe, introduction by Christopher Mealy, and it's photographs that I took from across the United States of different situations set up in motels. The seedy and hidden life behind closed doors.
You two have got a lot of talent. Are you swingers?
No.
No.
Are
you should have saw his face. He went
very upset.
So, do each of you have a monogamous relationship?
Yes.
Yes, with each other, actually.
why is it that both of you are interested in eroticism, and yet you want to be monogamous and not explore other possibilities?
Well, for me, the trappings involved with this kind of photography exceed what could be defined as just being eroticism. For me, I like the American trappings, the bruises on them, the seedy things that happen. We live in a culture that similarly is obsessed with sex and repulsed by it. I think that our work is satanic because it's carnal.
At what point did you find out you were going to be third degree priest and you're going to be a witch? I mean, how does that happen? How does that process function?
Well, they indicate a certain understanding.
I mean, one day do you get a phone call and says, "Congratulations, you're a witch now." I mean,
actually,
I got this cool envelope in the mail.
Ed McMahon showed up.
He did, and I scratched off this thing.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
I mean, what, do you ask to be a witch?
No.
Or does one day somebody pop up and say you're a witch?
They just pop up and tell you.
Really?
It's crazy. Yeah.
I've been functioning in the Church of Satan for years, and people ask that question a lot, actually. And I cannot cite any one thing that I did that I believe makes me deserve it, but obviously the hierarchy above me, Peter Gilmore and the High Priestess, deemed worthy of that. And I can only attribute that to whatever talents I have, whatever productive abilities I've shown. And the same goes for the other ranks within the organization.
But, well, I mean, did you get a phone call? Was there an email or a letter? I mean, how was this announced that you're going to be a priest?
It was via courier pigeon.
Yeah.
No, it was in the mail.
A girl popped out of a cake and gave me mine.
Yeah.
So it was done formally and tastefully.
How was it done? I mean, can you talk about it?
I'd rather not.
Really? So it's secret? Is it? Ah. Why is that secret?
Because the more secrets we have, the more interested people get.
And then, at long last, I sat down with the direct successor of Anton LaVey, the Black Pope, the man who keeps this whole organization intact, High Priest Peter H. Gilmore. High Priestess Peggy Nadramia was also there, but didn't want to go on camera. Gilmore was a warm man, easy to see why he was a leader.
We're just a small, independent crew, as you can see. Two guys.
The pioneer spirit.
Yeah. Why did you allow this?
Because it seemed that I'm dealing with a small group who are rational, who are interested in understanding things in the world around them they might not know much about at the moment. And so I'm always quite happy to give information to help clarify any misconceptions that there might be. And you seem like the right folks to do it with.
What is the Church of Satan?
The Church of Satan is an association of individuals who recognize themselves as being Satanists, defined by the literature created by Anton LaVey. It's not a building. It's like the mafia. You can't go visit the mafia. It's the people and the philosophy. And the people live the philosophy, and that's how they communicate it. So you're getting from the horse's mouth as inside as you can get.
Now, one of the satanic sins is herd conformity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yet here you are leading an organization of people. There are rules, there are requirements. Is this a contradiction? Is this an example of herd conformity?
No, because we're really a very unique third side kind of organization. Let me sort of backtrack just a little to get a concept out there. In Satanism, we feel that there are often false dichotomies offered, that something has to be either this or that, when often there's a much stranger third side solution that may be the case, or even several other ones. So the unique thing about the Church of Satan is it's an organization for people who would never join organizations. It's really less of an organization in a traditional sense. than a cabal of strange people who have ways of communicating with each other and then might decide who they are interested in dealing with really on a very personal basis, because there is no requirement for any kind of meetings, group sessions, any sort of dealing with any other Satanist at all. You don't have to like them, you don't have to meet them. It's a really unusual kind of group. So for us, we don't see it as contradictory, because the laws that we present, the sins and the 9 satanic statements, are really basically talking about the way the universe works. And particularly when we deal with the satanic sins, these are behaviors that are, if we did them, we'd think we were being stupid. And we'd have to like smack ourselves and say, oh, you don't want to do that again.
Why not just be a completely independent individual?
For me, being a part of the Church of Satan was a way of acknowledging a philosophy that I treasured. When I read the Satanic Bible the first time, I was considering myself an atheist. And I read this book. I sat down and read it in one sitting, and I said, I'm a Satanist, I'm not just an atheist. Most people meet public Satanists who are musicians and writers and artists because they can be generally free to talk about being a Satanist and it doesn't ruin their career. But we have Satanists who are top chefs, and we have Satanists who are high up in fire departments and police departments and in educational systems. And they've challenged themselves to be the best at what they can be in those fields. But they also then have to have the strength of saying, I'm going to keep this one element of myself to myself, because it would hinder this career, and I would have to then be set upon by all these bigoted, small-minded people, and I'd spend all my time just trying to explain what this was, and not getting on with enjoying doing what I'm trying to do.
Who are some famous people who have been Satanists, who have been members of the Church of Satan?
Well, I can only tell you about the ones who have admitted publicly.
Okay.
Sammy Davis Jr. He was our Rat Pack warlock. And seeing how he sort of ran around and lived the hedonistic lifestyle, he definitely took some of our principles into account. He was a cool guy, though. He was a real iconoclast, fighting to be an entertainer and deal with a very white male power structure at the time. But Jane Mansfield was a member, too.
Was she?
Oh, yeah.
No, you sure about that?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
I've seen her letters to Anton LaVey. She was really into it for a while. The thing is, there was enough, and she was so interested in Anton LaVey that when her one son was injured by a lion that he'd seen at the zoo, she asked Anton LaVey to, come and oversee him and try to, make her feel better. And she was very obsessed with him. People like to sort of try to make it look like the other way around at this point, since they're both gone. But Jane was pretty hot for Doctor for a time being there. And there's like the obvious musicians like Marilyn Manson has admitted to being a member and used it for his books, and King Diamond, of course, and the British guy Mark Almond, who Soft Cell, his band.
Do you ever feel like that, on the other hand, the pageantry and the ghoulishness that is associated, the skulls and the coffins, it's just sort of silly? I mean, is it like, do you ever feel like, this is really just worthless? I mean, how do you feel about that?
Well, first off, all religions are show business, and Satanism is about the only one that admits that it is.
What do you know that the other lower degrees don't know? What makes you so special? Why are you the 5th degree Satanist?
If I told you, you wouldn't be able to leave this room. So the 5th degree is, for us, it's a title that means a satanic master. And that means that not only have I moved the world of Satanism through my writings and speakings, but I've come to a certain level of mastery of the philosophy and implementing it, and made contributions that will be lasting throughout the possible existence of however long this organization will go.
Anton LaVey decided he was going to be the high priest, and so mote it be, right?
Oh, yeah.
So why should we care about this guy? I mean, what's so special about this guy? Says, I decide I'm going to be the high priest of the Church of Satan. I mean, any wacko off the street could say the same thing, so what made him special? Why do you care about the fact that he, in particular, proclaimed himself the first high priest of this organization?
Well, because if he didn't do it, somebody with less talent and ability might have and would have been somebody laughable that you'd want to just say, well, why don't you put on your tinfoil helmet and go toddling along? With Anton LaVey, he founded the religion, and basically being the high priest made complete sense. Being a fifth degree, when he finally realized that this is how he's going to set it up, because he didn't really mention that so much when he first started. The whole hierarchy wasn't completely established the day the organization was. It evolved a bit over time. But this was a man who could always deliver the goods. He was an amazing keyboard player, and I think his writing speaks for itself.
Do you feel that Christianity is bad?
Christianity is something that satisfies other people. As long as Christians keep Christianity to themselves, I don't have a problem with it. Because there are different kinds of people. I think that there are carnal people and there are spiritual people. The carnal people are the ones who don't feel the need in having some kind of supernatural or other kind of uber-parental figure over them. Those kind of folks would feel bereft if they didn't think that there was some spooky daddy or mommy in the sky or wherever looking over them. And sometimes those kind of people also turn to various governments. They're very swayed by totalitarians because they want some kind of authority on them. It's been clear to me since I was a kid that there really isn't any kind of interventionalist supernatural figures out there. I've never seen any evidence for it. Regardless, all these different religions seem to think that there are such things, but they all disagree on what it is and what it does. I'm happy being the center of my universe. I don't need to ask somebody else to step forward and kind of, take my place. It's like, Satan? Yeah, fuck you, go away. Maybe I shouldn't say that. What we're doing is using Satan in the original Hebrew sense. Satan means adversary, opposer, one to question or to accuse. So we're kind of going back to the Old Testament concept of being a figure who is going to stand up and challenge.
How do you feel about the possibility of modifying the Satanic Bible?
In what way?
When it says, if someone, and I'm paraphrasing, bothers you, tell them to stop, and if they don't stop, destroy them. Would it be more accurate to say destroy the threat? Because destroy them...
It's set up as a very dramatic... It's dramatic, the way that's stated there. And I think in that part of the book, much of the litany there is meant to be rabble-rousing and over the top. The rest of the philosophy, I think, does make it quite clear that there's a context for that. And our context is always based on responsibility to the responsible and punishment fitting in kind and degree the crime. It might be easier if we put all that on the same page for people. But then again, we Satanists aren't generally out there looking for stupid people, so we don't really feel we have to be so blunt and obvious about it.
Then it's left up to interpretation, which is the same thing the Christians say about the Bible. Shouldn't it be as clear as possible about what is being stated and what is required?
I think in each section, it is as clear as being required for what the sections are.
Would you bow down and say whatever your persecutors wanted you to say in order to live, or would you defy them?
I would say whatever I needed to make sure they execute me. And I'd take my money and go off and live very well somewhere as having that be my best revenge. I don't believe in being a martyr.
So you don't feel like a wimp for saying that you wouldn't stand up publicly for Satanism if somebody was going to kill you?
No, absolutely not. No, not at all. Our goal is pragmatism and survival, not to be some kind of cardboard figure that, find somebody else to do that for you. Let them be the symbol and go down with the ship. Because it's only the one who lives afterwards who gets to reap the benefits of whatever that was.
When you die, you really don't think there could be some awareness that exists?
I don't think so.
Really?
I think that really death is the end, that there is no survival of any sort.
So do you fear death?
No.
You don't fear death?
Not at all.
What do you fear?
What I would fear is perhaps this country turning into a place where I might have to go underground.
Tell me about the paranormal experiences you've had.
Really not many. I had one very interesting one when I was a kid, where I felt I saw an apparition in a house that was reputedly haunted. And I woke up in the middle of the night and saw a figure, what looked like a figure at the foot of my bed. And I thought, well, that was kind of interesting. You know, maybe that was a ghost. It would be cool if it was. And I didn't really think much. It didn't scare me. It was just a little startling. And some months later, I found actually a person living nearby who lived in a kind of a shack. She was a woman who was old and had lived in that neighborhood. It was up on a mountainside for many, many years. And she had a photograph of the wife of the fellow who built our home, who was actually buried under a big stone off in the forest. And the picture of the wife looked an awful lot like the apparition that I saw. And I thought, kind of neat. Maybe it had a connection, maybe not.
Hey, we're all the naked ladies because I feel like we're missing out.
So many religions are anti-sexuality.
Yeah.
That because we're the one that says any sexuality between consenting human adults is fine, makes us titillating to them. They think that a religion that would say, well, you know, if you want to, you know, if you're gay, if you're straight, if you're, you know, into different fetishes, as long as you can practice them with other consenting adults, we think fine. But for us, sex is a natural part of life. It's like eating. We Satanists try to consider ourselves gourmets in everything, so that we follow our proclivities in food, drink, sex, whatever, clothing, what cars we buy.
Okay, you take somebody like Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, who, you know, Hail Satan, Hail Satan, Hail Satan, and he's out there murdering, raping, killing. How do you feel about these people who wear the same emblem that you have on your lapel, who say Hail Satan, and who go out and commit these terrible crimes?
I have nothing but contempt for somebody like Richard Ramirez, and wish that he'd actually climbed into the bedroom of a satanic woman who would have shot his sorry ass and stopped his reign of terror.
Under certain circumstances, you think capital punishment is okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, how do you feel about abortion?
Abortion should be up to the person whose body is in question.
What is your opinion on suicide?
Suicide is only something that should be considered if you are in a position of unending agony that had no hope of any kind of redress.
Legalization of marijuana.
Oh, certainly. I think that the idea of victimless crimes and trying to legislate what people should use, you know, in and of itself, is inappropriate for a government. What we should do is legislate when they use it where it could be harmful to other people. If people want to smoke pot at home or drink, you know, nice cocktails at home, that's cool.
What is the worst sin someone can commit, in your opinion?
So that question just comes at me as like, it's not really... Rape, I would say, is probably one of the worst things a person can do.
Mm-hmm. Are you the Antichrist?
Oh, that's great. The Antichrist, by Christian definition, certainly not. But am I anti the philosophy of turn the other cheek, all that kind of stuff? Yes, I'm anti that. So I'm the anti-Christ philosophy, but the Antichrist, you know, I guess we have to watch the Omen movies again, whatever horrible remakes are being made to figure out what that's all about.
Well, what is the Antichrist? If you're not the Antichrist, then what is the Antichrist?
There is no Antichrist. I think the Bible's just a bunch of fiction.
So all these subversive people who say that governments are controlled by Satan and that there is some apocalyptic, you know, vision approaching, and 666, the mark of the beast, you know, you can wrap it all up into a big package. You know better than I do. How do you feel about all that?
I think it's pretty funny. It really is. It's entertaining. I think conspiracy theorists are folks who probably should spend more time on making their own there than worrying about false conspiracies.
Well, I have all these ranks in the church: witch, warlock, priest,
priestess, magister, magistra, mags. I mean,
all nature is hierarchical.
Mm-hmm.
And we think that it's natural to use hierarchy, that our species is hierarchical. Any kind of pack animal is hierarchical. It's nothing unusual or unnatural. And it's also part of tradition in esoteric and religious movements to do something like that.
I know that you keep the statistics about the church confidential. Are there more men than women, however?
Yes.
There are more men?
Yes.
Why do you think that is?
I really am not sure. There's always been a little more men than women. It isn't hugely overbalanced. You can join the Church of Satan, and the only people who will know you're a member are 3 people. And they are the people who would never say anything about it.
what do you think would shock the average American most about the Church of Satan?
That in many ways our members aren't so different from them themselves.
Yeah.
Satanists come from every walk of life. Now we have folks who are blue-collar folks, white-collar folks. We have people in police departments, in the military, in fire departments. We have teachers, we have psychiatrists, we have lawyers. Of course, everybody hates the lawyers. Our members are just like people at large. Most of them, I would say, probably have a little more self-awareness than maybe a lot of folks do, because to be a Satanist means that you pay attention to yourself, since you're placing yourself as your own God in the center of your own subjective universe.
Even though these Satanists say there is no literal Satan, nor God, no demons or angels as sentient beings, what if they're wrong? Might one of these ethereal beings make an appearance during the ritual? It was finally time to find out. Ragnarok is a form of Armageddon, with Odin as God and Loki as the opposition, forming a rebirth of society. Or, as worded in Gilmore's Satanic Scriptures, the purpose of this rite is to expedite the shattering of a social order that has become moribund, seeing it cleared away to prepare for a new society based on values that will bring prosperity and satisfaction to the celebrants. And so, presented for the first time ever documented on film, here is the Satanic Rite of Ragnarok, based on Peter H. Gilmore's The Satanic Scriptures.
Hear me, gods of the abyss, and attend. I command the infernal lords to witness mighty deeds done in thy name. Come forth and greet those numbered among thy pack. The time has come for redress. Justice shall reign through the rule of fang and claw. Vextalianis, as it was in the beginning, and it shall be again. We smash open the gates to Muspelheim, to Niflheim, and the very depths of hell's domain is summon thee forth to the climax this age of fire. Hiya!
Hiya!
Hail Loki!
Hail Loki!
Surt, Master of Fire, I summoned thee to come forth from Muspelheim and kindle thy unquenchable flame. Attend us. Loki, ancient lord, I summon thee to slaughter the foul ones who stand against nature. Attend us. Fenris, almighty wolf, I summon thee to rend the flesh of those who oppose thy children. Attend us. Jorgamander, venomous sea dragon, I summon thee to smash the hulls of Valhalla with thy crashing waves. Attend us. With thy power and presence, our hour of victory is at hand. From the nighted halls of the netherworlds, I call my kindred to witness my oath. I pledge my troth.
I pledge my troth.
To the honor of my brethren.
To the honor of my brethren.
I reclaim this soil.
I reclaim this soil.
Hallowed by the blood of my folk.
Hallowed by the blood of my folk.
Grandfather Loki.
Grandfather Loki.
Lord of the Inferno.
Lord of the Inferno.
Thy flame burns deep in my heart.
Thy flame burns deep in my heart.
Father Fenris.
Father Fenris.
Mighty wolf.
Mighty wolf.
My teeth are your fangs.
My teeth are your fangs.
Tearing our enemies.
Tearing our enemies.
My blood burns.
My blood burns.
With irresistible rage.
With irresistible rage.
For the murder of our kind.
For the murder of our kind.
By the filthy minions.
By the filthy minions.
Of the gods of death.
Of the gods of death.
Thou tasted their flesh.
Thou tasted their flesh.
When thou wert bound.
When thou wert bound.
And now feast upon.
And now feast upon.
Their corrupt remains.
Their corrupt remains.
Hiya!
Hiya!
Hail Fenris!
Hail Fenris!
Behold the poetic mead, stolen from the halls of Valhalla. It now takes its rightful place in our hearth. Venerus, thy might shall bring me victory. Hail victory! Brother, partake of the might of Venerus. Hail victory! Sister of Loki, partake of the might of Venerus.
Hail victory!
Sister, partake of the might of Venerus.
Hail victory!
Hail Loki!
Hail Loki!
Behold, we are deep in the frigid wasteland of Fimbulvinter. Our culture choked with the glacial tread of mediocrity. The weak govern the strong, perverting natural law. Witness the reign of the gods of death. Yahweh, Christ, Buddha, bastard Mahat. All you have touched has spawned corruption. Dwarves of mind and spirit have swept the globe as a pestilence, stifling higher man. We have seen the forward motion of ruthless life force, slow to a crawl, mired in a bog of despicable refuse. Discipline is banished, idiocy enshrined. The world is ruled by crippled and twisted thralls, groveling before their idols of renunciation, wallowing in the filth of desire denied. Aspiration and advancement are mocked by pox-ridden beggars, whose festering sores are their signs of honor. A pall of guilt smothers a visage of pride. Justice is hamstrung. The very living treasure of our Midgard, our precious lair, is soiled by a mass swarm of worthless, subhuman dross. Whoa! 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 Enough! The time is now to sound the clarion of rejection. Hear me, O warriors. men and women of mighty minds, I call the very whirlwinds to be our steeds. Time to shatter the bonds of our gods, to loose the primal powers that bore our ancestors. March forth to total war. Smite the worshippers of the weak and frail. Fill their hearts with berserker frenzy. Mind and force shall reign supreme. The time has come to cleanse and purify. A time for birth. Spilling an ocean of blood. Hiya! Hiya! Hail Loki! Hail Loki! O ye pleasures which dwell in the first air, ye are mighty in the parts of the earth, and execute the judgment of the mighty. Unto it is said, behold the face of Satan, the bringer of comfort, whose eyes are the brightness of the stars, which provided you for the government of the earth. Unquenchable variety, furnishing the power of understanding to dispose all things according to the providence of him that sitteth in the infernal throne. And rose up in the beginning, saying, the earth, let her be governed by her parts, and let there be division in her. The glory of her may be always drunken and vexed in itself. Her course let it run with fulfillment of lust. And as a handmaid, let her save them and serve them. One season, let it confound another. And let there be no creature upon or within her the same. All her numbers, let them differ in their qualities, and let there be no creature equal with one another. The reasonable creatures of the earth and men, let them vex and weed out one another, and their dwelling places, let them forget their names. The work of man and his pomp, let them be defaced. His buildings, let them be caves for the beasts of the fields. Confound her understanding with darkness. For why? It repenteth me not that I have made man. One will let her be known, and another will a stranger. Because she is the bed of the harlot, and the dwelling place of Loki, the king. Open wide the gates of hell. The lower heavens beneath you, let them serve you. Govern those who govern. Cast down such as fall. Bring forth those that increase, and destroy the rotten. No place let it remain in one number. Add and diminish until the stars be numbered. Arise, move and appear before the covenant of his mouth, which he hath sworn unto his justice. Open the mysteries of your creation, and make us partakers of undefiled wisdom. It is is now Imok time. Baldur has been slain, and Heimdall sounds his call. Brothers battle, slaying one another. Siblings writhe in incestuous embrace. Men know misery with their hearts. Treacheries abound. Harsh is the world. Behold an age of axes, of swords, of shattered shields. An age of Tebas. An age of wolves. Now ends the age of sterility. Look upon Nerthus rune. Loki, we sunder thy bonds. And loose the ravening wolf of hell. Hail, Loki! Hail, Fenris!
Hail, Fenris!
Hear the glad tidings. A torrent of swords and daggers runs from the east through the veils of venom. Below the earth, a soot-red cock crows in the halls of hell. Fearsome Garm and savage Frick are free to plunder. Comes the dragon of darkness flying. Might from beneath the mountains of night, with a roar in the ancient tree, the giant is loose. Yggdrasil quakes where it stands, is overturned. Jormungandr rise in titanic rage, whispering the waves to froth. His venom spatters the very sea and sky. Naglfar, dread ship of doom, casts off. From the east, over the boiling waters, comes Muspel's folk, with Loki at the helm. Fierce Garm devours Tyr, the one-handed. From out of the south, mighty surged flames blaze before and after. His sword, conflagration, touches all. Embattled gods, sun is skewered on the blade. Mountains burst, hags hurry hence. The Bifrost span is smashed to shards. Fenris slavers, jaws stretching from earth to sky. Odin, Loki betrayer, is swallowed whole. Men tread how hell's road now. The skies are sundered. Black is the sun as the earth sinks in the waters, stained crimson with blood. The sparkling stars are stripped from the firmament. Smoke rages and leaping flames lick heaven itself. At Loki's command, surge fire, consume all the righteous pyre. The old order is done! Hail Ragnarok! Behold, Valhalla is ablaze. The flames herald a new dawn. The gods of weakness are vanquished. Their ashes and blood fuel for our future. Now begins the age of Pharaoh. Multiply, sons and daughters of Pharaoh. Fill our darkling halls with iron youth. We glory in the discipline and the strength through joy. Hail, Pharaoh warriors! Hail, iron youth!
Hail, iron youth!
Behold, the world is ours. Hail, Fenris! Hail, Fenris! Hail, Loki! Hail, victory! So it is done.
Now comes the after party.
The thing is about a satanic ritual, it goes how it goes, and if something is not right on script, it doesn't matter. It's all the feeling and everything that everyone's having at the time that matters. That is what really matters in a satanic ritual.
Well, then the one thing I love about doing these types of rituals is this is the only religion in the world that doesn't put you on your knees.
It's about standing tall, as being yourself, that superior being.
Well, knowing that we've all participated in history here.
That's right.
Any thoughts on that?
That was cool.
It's a damn well written ritual.
Yeah,
and it's
it is
awesome.
The words.
Everybody should do this ritual.
We're armed. Don't put that on.
For me, this whole thing began 2 months ago. This ritual.
As you can see, after the ritual, the participants were giddy as schoolgirls. It was quite a swift transformation from the serious tone of the ritual chamber, They reminded me of actors who had just completed a powerful scene in a movie, and they reveled, reflecting on the experience. Their smiles were genuine. Truly, this did have the feeling of theater. And believe it or not, it wasn't even R-rated. There was no violence, foul language, or, darn it, even a naked woman. As a gesture of kindness, Eric and I were offered a Russian horn filled with the finest mead.
Want some mead?
Yes.
Drink it. Yeah, you gotta
I drank deeply, delighted to have captured this historic scene. Afterward, nurse did for pure pleasure. After boiling for a while in the tub, they would run around the black house barefoot in the snow until they could hardly feel their limbs, then douse themselves with snow before dunking again in hot water. And no one loved it more than Colonel Akula. And once I felt sure this wasn't the equivalent of snipe hunting back where I'm from, I gave it a shot myself. It felt great. And the rest of the night, everyone had a good time.
I'm a badass!
Even though Satan never made an appearance during our ritual, you may recall that I decided to try bringing him up myself, just for an interview. My ritual did have a naked lady, and here's what happened.
Satan! Please come henceforth! You are commanded! Well, I guess the Satanists are, right.
There is no fucking devil.
Nonetheless, these Satanists we'd hung out with would have been burned at the stake a few hundred years ago. Just ask Laurie Bruno, descendant of 1500s Italian scientist and philosopher Giordano Bruno.
I, Bruno, ancestor, descendant, he walks inside of me. I charge Rome for the murder of my ancestor, Giordano Bruno, Felipe Giordano Bruno. That was his name.
He was a man of science, and in his beliefs they went against the church because he said that the earth, as Copernicus did before him, went around the sun. At that time that was a heretical belief, so he was brought before the Pope. And they said, well, change your mind, change your mind. He wouldn't do it.
He wouldn't back down. And when he went to the stake, he was murdered alive. He was not strangled first. Because if he said, oh, I'm guilty, they would have strangled him and then burned him. But Giordano Bruno said no. And when he spoke there, they couldn't stand his words. They drove a stake through his tongue. His body may have burned, but what he stood for always will be there. It was an evil, evil time. A terribly evil time. And if given the opportunity to do it again, they would. If given the upper hand, the Inquisition, which is the Holy See, would be back in business. I might be burned right now. I'm not a Satanist. I would never condemn anybody for their religion. I would defend anyone, including a Satanist, to believe as they will, for their rights of happiness.
During the Salem witch trials, I would have been hanged for asking these questions, unable to prove a negative, to prove I'm not in league with the devil. And so, overall, what did Eric, a Christian, and I, an agnostic, learn about the Church of Satan?
It's sensational for them. I mean, they are basically atheists, and atheists are boring. We wouldn't even be doing this documentary about these people if they didn't call their church the Church of Satan. They seem to do what works. It's like magic. They do, or they produce magical rituals because they say magic works. It's weird to me that they feel like their consciousness has enough energy to produce a magical effect, and yet they don't feel like their consciousness can survive the death of the physical body. They are not out there campaigning to get people to join this group. If anything, they're very reclusive and reserved. So when they say that Satanists and their mindset are born, not made, I believe that.
I'm a Christian because primarily that's the way that I was raised. That I have remained a Christian because I don't think there's anything else out there. Well, I've not seen anything come along to convince me otherwise, that's not, that I'm believing the wrong way. I do believe that there is a Satan. Just as I believe there's a God. When I first heard about this project, I really didn't think it was going to happen. I honestly thought you were kind of kidding. That they have some kind of bizarre practices, but what religion doesn't? Every religion has some weird sort of ritualistic thing that they do. They just happen to revolve theirs around dark and ghoulish imagery. Since I actually have been a Christian inside one of their rituals, I don't know that that's going to lead me to hell. I don't really believe that. I just think that, well, I've got to see, another religion's way of worship. That the Church of Satan is not what you think. These are not bloodthirsty killers. They're not out there sacrificing babies. The Church of Satan actually kind of laughs at the whole idea. So I'm sure there's going to be Christians out that they're going to see this thing and they're like, there's no way that guy's a Christian. They may very well say that about me. I may be excommunicated from the Methodist Church if they do that. I don't know. But I guess hopefully what they'll discover is that not all Christians are the way that, that they think, not the stereotypical, sort of the same way a Christian thinks of a Satanist as like, oh, it's a baby killer, or whatever. Hopefully the Satanists will be like, oh, these guys are not all uptight, Bible-thumping people. They're actually people that you can hang out with, have a conversation with. They're not going to try to convert you every 5 seconds and say, oh, if you don't think like me, then you're going to hell. Hopefully they will realize that Christians are people that they can get along with, just as I realized that, I could get along with a Satanist.
Stating that you're a Satanist, an adversary to convention in this world, is also an automatic way of making yourself more interesting. Just since working on this movie, I can't tell you how many emails I've gotten from people asking if I'm a Satanist. Maybe that's one reason some members of this church dress up and do weird things. But don't members of all religions? We're just more used to the symbolic drinking of Christ's blood and eating his body, and healing by laying on of hands, or even baptism is pretty strange. All religions are weird for one reason or another. In the long run, in the Holy Bible, the character of Satan basically wants humans to be knowledgeable and independent, to know the difference between good and evil, traits we usually consider positive nowadays, while the character of God wants humans to be ignorant and naked, perhaps his pets in a way. Maybe being God's ignorant pet in the garden is a better life. Or maybe we should have freedom to succeed or fail on our own, based on our own understanding. Regardless, whatever the devil and evil supposedly are, the Bible says God created them both, right? It's all a great story, but how seriously should we take any of this? Personally, I have my disagreements with the Church of Satan. I think there may be an afterlife and karma, and that saying we should destroy others in whatever way is just plain old bad manners. However, at least the Church of Satan is not recruiting people. They don't stand on streets and shout for members. They don't solicit. In my experience, whether we agree with them or not, those people who join the Church of Satan know what they're doing, sincerely enjoy what they do, and mind their own business. Unless, of course, you mess with them. And then you might just get a curse or two thrown your way. With their love of dark and ghoulish imagery, the kind most of us only enjoy at Halloween, the Satanists I met may even cringe a bit if I call them nice. But that's what they seem to be. All of those terrifying headlines were apparently media bunk. Any criminal who said Satan made him do it became a poster child for Satanism, a person playing on our fears and ignorance as an excuse.
There is no fucking devil.
The Church of Satan does not support any sacrificing of animals or humans or blatant breaking of any laws, especially violent ones. In fact, while making this film, the Church of Satan was contacted by an 18-year-old soldier in the U.S. Army, saying he wanted to be out of the Christian world and would kill his grandparents, with whom he lived, to be an unholy warrior. This was only a week after a young man opened fire in a Colorado church. Peter H. Gilmore immediately turned the soldier over to the FBI.
When I saw this one, it really seemed like it was coming from a disturbed individual.
And they took it from there, considering this threat seriously.
All of us were just like in shock that he thought this was something funny.
Yet, in December of 2007, the Catholic Pope set up worldwide exorcism squads to tackle the rising tide of Satanism. And a small town in Louisiana changed their telephone prefix 666 to 749, since 666 is the satanic mark of the beast in the Bible. Nonetheless, the Church of Satan seems to primarily be all about strict logic, raw survival of the human animal, what can and cannot be empirically proven, and what works in a pure cause and effect manner, respecting other humans, yet without fear of a spiritual world. Do unto others as they do unto you, period. Since we can't fit everything in a movie, you'll have to do your own research to learn everything about the church. But now that you've discovered what they're generally about, just like myself, you can love or hate the members of the Church of Satan for the right, accurate reasons. And if they deceived me in my research, so be it. Anyone can deceive anyone, regardless of religion. But I did my best to find the truth, reading their literature, living with them.
I haven't just been here kissing ass.
Dining with them.
May I have some of that later?
Going deep within their world, sniffing out their bona fide agenda. All I know for sure is that it seems everyone is fighting over religion all the time, and there's no end in sight. I haven't heard of anyone going to war in the name of Satan, but plenty of people go to war in the name of God. Sure, there are fanatics and wackos everywhere. But if there really is no devil creating all the evil in the world, and God isn't creating all the evil in the world, then from where does it come? Maybe, just maybe, the evil comes from us, little old humans. Always has and always will. Perhaps instead of blaming the evil on some invisible being, we should take responsibility for it ourselves. Only then can we control it and stop it, after all, without any help from beyond. Despite our vast differences, maybe we should at least respect each other and focus on our common good. Set aside these ideas of invisible entities, ideas that allow our world to be easily manipulated by humans who claim to speak on behalf of these supposed beings or interpret so-called inspired writings. But, then again, I doubt that can happen anytime soon. It appears we'd rather just keep killing each other in the name of, well, whomever you'd like.